FUSUI Iwasaki spent 15 years in prison for the murder of his former girlfriend, a crime he insists he did not commit. Iwasaki was an uncooperative prisoner. He spent 3 years in solitary confinement and was forbidden from talking to anyone. These are harsh punishments, but not unusual in Japan's prisons. Iwasaki found solace in turning his experience of prison life into drawings.
The feeling I'm portraying is of pain and suffering. We were shut off from anything that could possibly stimulate the senses. We managed to survive because we were given so many anti-anxiety pills.
One day, after deliberately breaking his cell window, Iwasaki was punished severely. He was placed in solitary confinement, in a cell where he was made to sit cross-legged and facing the wall. He was not allowed to even move his head.
For 45 days, I wasn't allowed to read books or even keep a diary. They took all of my possessions. After breakfast, an alarm would indicate it was time for me to sit facing the wall. Another alarm meant it was time to eat lunch and go to the toilet. Then I would return to my cell and sit facing the wall again until 4 p.m.
Since his release 5 years ago, Iwasaki has gone public about the reality of life inside a Japanese prison. Conditions for people who have not even been convicted were highlighted by the arrest of Carlos Ghosn, the former chairman of Nissan Renault, who was kept in Tokyo Detention Center for a total of 130 days. Ghosn was interrogated without his lawyer present and slept in a cell that was lit day and night. Initially, he was not allowed to receive visits from family members. The details of Ghosn's detention drew international criticism, but they are familiar to Japanese suspects who can spend months in detention waiting for their trial to start. Ghosn, who is out on bail, won't have his day in court until next spring. This morning, Iwasaki and 2 other former prisoners have come to talk to 6th grade students at this school in the Tokyo suburbs. After he was arrested for taking illegal drugs, KENJI Watanabe awaited trial at the same detention center and at the same time as Carlos Ghosn.
One time I saw Carlos Ghosn. I just saw him from afar, but we lived in the same environment. And I can tell you that for a person as powerful as he is, being in that place, I understand why he was furious and drained of his energy.
Watanabe rails against the Japanese criminal justice system, in which he says the presumption of innocence does not exist. Whenever he went to see a prosecutor or judge, he had to move around with a rope tied around his waist. He spent 5.5 months in detention awaiting trial. In many other countries, he would not have had to spend that time in detention.
We were treated very badly when they took us to court. They shouted at us, pushed us, and abused us. We were not seen as human beings. And we were treated in the same way as people who had been found guilty and sentenced. I cannot understand that. I felt like I wasn't human anymore. I felt totally helpless and isolated. It was really hard. I dealt with it by pretending I was no longer human.
You can tell how much a country respects human rights by the way it treats its prisoners. Don't listen to politicians' speeches. Just look at how prisoners are treated. And you will know straight away if the authorities really believe in human rights.
Retired prison guard TOSHIO Sakamoto worked in around 10 prisons.
That's me. I was the director. I directed executions at that time.
Japan has resisted pressure to abolish the death penalty. Sakamoto is appalled by the way death row prisoners are treated. They're told they're to be hanged on the morning of their execution, and their families are not informed until after the punishment has been carried out.
In the United States, executions are announced 1 month in advance to give defense lawyers time to try to prevent them. But in Japanese prisons, everything is done in secret. The treatment of inmates is kept from the public, and even executions are carried out in secret. In France, executions by guillotine were conducted in full view of the public. But it doesn't work like that in Japan.
Japan has a very low crime rate, and it doesn't have a problem with prison overcrowding. Violence among prisoners is practically unheard of, and gangs have no influence over the way prisons are run. And as long as it stays that way, few people believe Japan needs to reform its criminal justice system.